He's looking to you to learn from him and then give to you what you're now pouring forth, because you're supposed to be a flow through. You're supposed to be a conduit. If you're the end point, he doesn't want to just fill you up to useless exploding because you're so full of everything. You can fill in the blank of what you're really full of. Okay? Because he wants it to flow through, whether it be love, compassion, mercy, patience, anything from the fruit of the Ruach that you would like to receive. But if it only ends with you, then there's no point to giving it to you. Same thing with your wealth. If it's only about you getting rich, only about you having stuff, and you're not giving back as you're expected with the tithing, the first tithe for the priests and the third tithe for the widow, the orphans, the poor, then he's like, why should I give you anything if you're just going to hold it, if it's all about you? But we want. So I would want to ask you, well, I'm going to say it in a different way. I'm going to strongly encourage you that the next time you catch yourself asking for anything from above, the first thing you need to do is ask yourself, am I giving anybody what I'm asking for? That you need to do. Yeah? Okay? Do not ask and you're not doing. The first thing you should do is get immediately convicted and say, I'll be right back. Hold that thought and then go do and then ask. But by doing, you won't even have to ask. You'll receive it probably anyway. And I can say that with some confidence because it says Yeshua says, your heavenly Father knows what you need. So you don't have to ask. You ask because you don't understand why you don't have. You don't ask just because you don't have. It's because you don't get it. And then he'll show you why. And maybe you were supposed to hear this today so you'd understand. Whatever it is, I'm lonely. I don't know, are you showing yourself friendly? I feel like nobody cares. Well, do you care about anybody? I mean, just ask the question of yourself and see what kind of answers you get. And then you may ask a better question, which is, Father, show me how I can do what I want you to do, how I can do so I can receive. You know, you don't get a harvest unless you plant first. Okay? I know the verse says reaping and sowing, but it's really sowing and reaping. Some of you aren't sowing, or actually you are sowing, but you don't like what you're reaping because you don't realize you sowed that. But you got to plant the harvest first. You got to plant the seeds first. So you may be feeling like everything's going and hitting a ceiling as you're trying to pray. Well, that's because you probably have done something in Matthew 6 that's missing. If you don't understand the forgiveness part, go listen to the teaching on forgiveness. It's called Forgiveness, Restoration, and Reconciliation. Reconciliation and Restoration, I think. Forgiveness, Reconciliation, and Restoration. You must forgive. You don't have to restore, you don't have to reconcile. Go listen to the teaching, but you got to forgive. Problem is that you don't know what that means and what it looks like, and all your friends and family members are accusing you of having unforgiveness because you didn't restore or reconcile. That does not mean you have unforgiveness. You may or you may not, but because you haven't restored or reconciled doesn't have anything to do with whether or not you forgave. Just let's make sure that's clear. Go listen to the teaching. So he's saying here, listen, for the judgment is without compassion to the one who has shown no compassion, and compassion boasts over judgment. My brothers, what use is it if anyone is to say he has belief but does not do the actions? If you believe the Almighty is, and he says this is part of who he is, he's merciful and compassionate and patient and all these things. You know, you can look into the 13 attributes and all these other things about the Almighty, and yet you're not doing any of those things. Why would you expect to receive them from him?